In this video, we'll talk about Lewis lead placement. So the Lewis lead was actually invented by Sir Lewis, who was a doctor. The objective of the Lewis lead is to enhance P wave amplitude for better identification of the atrial excitation. In cases of atrial fibrillation or flutter, you can see the P wave itself. So how we can do the the Lewis leads? It's very easy one. Let's have a look here. So the right arm lead, instead of putting it on the right arm here, we shift it to the manubrium. Okay. The left arm lead, instead of putting it on the left arm, we shift it down to the fifth intercostal space at the right sternum border. And the last one, the left leg lead, instead of putting it here, we shift it down to the opposite side, okay, to the right lower costal margin. Now, if we remember, lead one was the connection, what was the difference between right arm and left arm. And now still, lead one will be between right arm and left arm. So the lead one will be here at this point, looking at the heart from the atrium, right? Because the atrium is like this here. So literally speaking, the Lewis lead is used to lock on P waves. It helps identify the P waves in more accuracy. Okay, and this approach is used whenever you have a narrow complex tachycardia or a wide complex tachycardia, and you want to see if the patient having a P wave or not, and where are the P waves, and what is the relationship between the P waves and the QRS complex to see if there is AV dissociation. That's fine. We will have two important examples of this, and you will understand it from there. Okay, now, and that being said, guys, whenever you are putting the Lewis leads, you are always looking at lead one. You are monitoring lead one because lead one will be here, okay? So the lead one is the lead that is Lewis lead after these replacements and modifications here. Okay, let's have an example. Let's look at this EKG. This is lead one for a patient coming with palpitation. As you can see, this is a narrow complex tachycardia. What is the heart rate? Again, we can measure the heart rate. Let's take this one here, the R wave and R wave. And there's like two large squares in between. This is one. And there's a half here and a half here. So two large squares. So 300 divided by 2, this is 150. So definitely the patient has tachycardia. So if you look at this tachycardia, it's somewhat irregular, right? So this is two small squares here. There's, okay, two small squares here. There's 1.5 small squares here. There is more than 2 small squares here. There is less than 2 small squares here, large squares, sorry. So it is somewhat irregular. It's not very obvious, the irregularity, but it's irregular. So it is very difficult to say if this is SVT with apparency, although the heart rate is less than, is not typical for SVT. Or it could be AFib with RVR, and the patient is having tachycardia because of the RVR, or it could be atrial flutter, right? We cannot see distinct form of P waves. This is a small P wave here, but I can't see any P wave, very distinct P waves here, okay? So in order to do this, we go and we repeat the EKG with the Lewis lead placement, and the same lead have been done here. If we look here, the heart rate a little bit slower. Okay, this could happen with any tachycardia. But if you can see here, we can now see more prominent P waves. As you can see, there are good P waves. They are distinct P waves. Okay, so if you can see P waves with a patient with narrow complex tachycardia, this is by definition not SVT. This is not an SVT. Okay, so it's unlikely to be an SVT. It could be because the patient still have the irregularity. This is likely to be AFib with RVR. So again, the Lewis lead placement help us looking at the P wave to better identify what type of tachycardia you are having. One more example, if we look at this tachycardia here, this is a wide complex tachycardia. If you look here, this is a wide complex tachycardia. And the heart rate is almost like 150 or less than that, like a little bit, okay? So there are too many syndromes can cause this. So we don't know what is going on with this patient. So in order to understand, we cannot see a P wave before. So we don't know where is the focus is originating. Is it originating from the ventricle or is it originating from the atria? So the next step for this wide complex tachycardia is actually to do Lewis lead placement. And when we put the Lewis leads here, you can see now, I can see some P waves. Here is a P wave. here is another P wave. Oh, here is another P wave here, and there's another P wave here. And as you can see, there is no relationship between the P waves and the QRS complexes. Look here, the distance between the P wave and the QRS complex varies between the complexes, and sometimes there are no P waves before the QRS complexes. So there is complete dissociation. So is this a third-degree AV block? No, because the patient is having tachycardia. And in AV block, it's very rare to have tachycardia. So this is by definition a ventricular tachycardia, because the P wave is not coming, the P wave that is coming from the atria is not giving me excitation of the ventricle. The ventricle is excited by itself. So this is by definition, it is a VTAC. So this is the usefulness of the Lewis leads. And thank you.